an authority on this topic, so we shall get going. I just got to close that out. There we go. All right, so hi everyone. My name is Chris Hughes from BC Hughes here, and I'm going to be hosting this very special pandemic potty talk with hopefully two very special guests, Paul Stewart, who just came on the call from the PBJ Cleaning Depot based in Listowel. That's a mouthful. And Shannon Hall from Dustbane, located in Ottawa, and they're a national supplier of sanitation supplies. So welcome, Paul, and hopefully Shannon comes on the call. So I just wanted to create this Zoom because there's so much confusion surrounding public washrooms in the tourism industry during this global pandemic. The industry, as we know, is full of stories where there's no place to go for visitors. And as someone I've been traveling quite a bit, around the province lately, and it is a huge, huge challenge to find public washrooms. So do you open them? Do you post them as out of order? How often do you have to clean them, and with what products? So today we're going to get real with some 3-ply answers to these questions. So Paul, we're just going to rapid fire you here. So the first question I have on my list is, should the tourism industry be afraid of their public washrooms during this time?
No, I don't think so. I think with the proper information from the federal, provincial, municipalities, passing that along to the managers, I think there is no reason to be skeptical about it. The managers, if they were leaving like cleaning schedules, making sure they were enforced, and I really don't see it as an issue.
Yeah, because we are seeing I see a lot of out of orders, people that just aren't sure about whether or not to open them up.
I think part of it is establishing a plan with your staff as well. You need areas of focus, educating your staff. I mean, this whole last 4 months has been a huge educational. Well, sorry about that. I'm getting a message from Shannon. I'll just quick text her to check her email. But it's been a huge transition for all of us, learning about the difference. I mean, I think once we just thought cleaning was cleaning, but now it's becoming a huge disinfecting and sanitizing as well.
Yeah. So the next question I have here on that point is, one of the biggest questions is bathroom cleaning frequency. So what's your advice to someone on how often, fundamentally you have to clean your washroom during this time?
That's a tough one. There's some areas that people are actually leaving the product in there, and I know maybe not in public washrooms, excuse me, it'll be a little tougher, that they may want to take some of the stuff with them. But I would generally say, if the park or if your washrooms are busy, I would think every half hour cleaning and disinfecting it. The taps, the sinks, the toilets. I think it depends on how busy your park or your facilities are.
Yeah, but you're
like that. That's a very tough one to comment on, really.
But as a general rule, every half hour, based on, I guess sort of.
That's what in discussions with some businesses that we've been supplying and talking with, that's maybe the general rule that we're discussing with them, that they have someone that just is designated to do that.
Right. Is that Shannon? Is she in here? There she is.
Sorry, I was trying to get in and it wasn't letting me in for some reason.
Oh, right on. Sorry about that. Well, welcome Shannon to the call. We're just introduced everybody, and we're starting down the questions. And we were just finishing up on the question about cleaning frequency, and Paul was just commenting about how, sort of every half hour is a general rule for moderately used facilities. Do you have any comments on that, on the frequency?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the type of facility that you're in. So cleaning as often as possible is always best, but that just isn't reality with every situation. So when we look at how do you do a standard clean versus a deep clean, and how often should I be cleaning and disinfecting, it really does come down to the nature of the traffic that's going through your facility and what that facility looks like. So a typical office space, you may wipe down those common areas like your kitchen or those desks and the washrooms on a more frequent basis, and those lower touch areas maybe once a day.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Oh, she's so well versed than I am.
No, that's okay. There is a debate, and I've heard quite a bit about it on different social media platforms, and even some a podcast on CBC about the debate over hand dryers versus paper towels. What's your comment on that?
Well, that is the greatest debate ever, isn't it? So for myself personally, I've always been on the paper side. I won't use a dryer, so I am the person that will wash my hands and wipe them on my clothes if there's no paper there, versus warming up the air, warming up that bacteria and having that spread all over. I'm not a really big fan of that. So when they talk about how viruses spread or how germs spread, they say that when you flush your toilet, that anything that's remaining in the toilet could be airborne up to 10 feet away from that. Now, it's lunchtime, right? And sometimes it's probably not the greatest conversation for lunch, but for me, that's got a lot of ick factor around it. So, Paul, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm all for paper. I'm also
for paper as well. They also say that paper towels also help to remove any remaining bacteria on your hands.
Absolutely.
And also paper towels in the washrooms. And there has been some places that we've now set up that they will put a dispenser by the door, and just for opening the door handles. So, I mean, there's few more uses for paper towels than even just drying your hands now.
And of course, touchless dispensers are critical.
Yeah, and a lot of the manufacturers are working with us, offering no charge touchless dispensers right now. Not the battery operated ones, but just the ones that you could just pull down with both hands and pull the paper out without touching any of the dispensers. So they've been very good working with us as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest improvements that we've seen in that restroom and washroom care space over the year is really that move to those touchless systems, whether it be your paper towel or your toilet dispensers, but into your hand soaps and everything else that's going through into that motionless or touchless area. So that, I don't know if you've been into some of those older facilities when they started off with the touchless systems and they were a drain on batteries. So there was a high maintenance cost associated with them. We've really seen that change over the years. The manufacturers have done a much better job on the technology behind those to ensure that you're actually maximizing those savings that you're getting from that system in place as well.
Yeah, and one of my biggest pet peeves with the touchless, like the non-battery ones, is that little dial on the side when it jams and you have to stick your finger in that little dial and you have to get really intimate with the paper towel dispenser. That thing drives me nuts. So if you can fix that, solve that problem. I see a lot of heads nodding.
That's right. Yeah, it is a big problem.
Yeah.
With them.
It certainly makes it a memorable experience. Probably not the memory you wanted to have when you left.
Yeah, not right now, especially. Next question I have here is, and this one's a tough one to answer, but just curious on your thoughts, is how much onus is there on the user to keep the facilities clean during this time, and how do we encourage people to do so? We see a lot of signs about help keep this washroom clean. Do you guys have any tips or tricks on how to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that's becoming more of a common theme. As we were polling customers, what does return to work really look like for you? And how do you feel safe going back into the facility? What we've seen in the past is out of sight, out of mind. You want your contract cleaners at night. You never actually wanted to see your cleaners, or having cleaning products out and readily available just wasn't the right practice. Given the change of times, I think people are feeling more safe with having some of the ready-to-use products, like some of the products that Paul supplies, to have a bottle of triple action in that kitchenette area where someone can feel confident that they're grabbing a product that's going to clean and disinfect for them and just make them feel safe and comfortable, or wipes or other ready-to-use products that are just very easy for them to administer. There's nothing worse than going into a manufacturing facility. And when you go to the back of a manufacturing facility, you typically have that common area. And the biggest pet peeve is someone leaves their dishes, the soap is empty, and there's crumbs all over the table and the counter. That happens in every office space just as much as in manufacturing. And it's still an annoyance. And given what we've gone through with COVID, I think there's a real support behind let's clean up after ourselves and make sure that we're taking care of that. We're also seeing more of that in the C-store space and gas stations where they're looking for customers to also do their part, make sure they're disposing of things properly and not just leaving that for the attendant to take care of.
Awesome. Paul, do you have any thoughts on that one? Sorry, I think Paul's frozen. Oh,
Oh,
no, Paul,
is that
sorry.
better?
Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that? On how do you put the onus on people?
Yeah, and that's kind of how I was even for the first point about leaving products in the bathroom, in the facilities, and people may just pick up and clean themselves. I think this is the new normal, and I think people are respecting these facilities more now, or I think you will see that. And I just think that, yeah, I think, well, I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure, wasn't sure where I was going. Maybe I did freeze.
Yeah, no worries. Paul, just stick with you on this one. What is the most frequent questions you're getting from your clients with respect to their washroom facilities? You're in the front lines, you know, what are you hearing?
The proper way to clean, you know, the time, maybe how much time you should spend cleaning, frequency, like you said, the best products to use. We're recommending ready-to-use products so people aren't having to mix the products as well. The clean, sanitize, and disinfect rule, which was taught to me by Shannon. Just the general maintenance, how to keep the floors clean. Our mop and buckets becoming a thing of the past, with maybe Shannon will speak about their micro scrubber for small areas. It's a learning curve as well for myself. Things have changed in the last 6 months, but people are interested and they're asking lots of questions.
Awesome. Shannon?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think the most common question is, I just got off the phone with a bunch of fitness studios that were asking, what do I do? How do I do this? How do I do it effectively? How often should I be disinfecting? Where should I be sanitizing versus disinfecting? And what's happening with my floors? So you see a lot more attention being paid to areas that traditionally we'll see a lot more attention being paid to floors seasonally, because everybody's concerned in the wintertime about slip, trips, and falls and wet floors. Now they're more concerned about, is my mop carrying a lot more bacteria and spreading it across my floors? Maybe it's doing more damage to my floors than I ever thought. So we're seeing some questions around what is the way that I can do more with less, because time is a factor. And as we see people are more often working from home, they have less folks available to be in the office to do some of these tasks, or labor is a bit of a shortage right now. So contract cleaners, as they're going in, this is what the parameters of my contract is. Unless you're going to change the parameters in my contract, this is what I do. So we're seeing a lot more of how can I self-maintain those areas, or ensure that I'm using proper tools like our Micro 5 to dry those floors quickly, so I don't have to worry about some of those risks and costs associated with that as well.
Awesome. And what was it, if you can just brief us on the formula that you taught Paul, just so that everybody's aware of the clean, sanitize, or I forget what it was.
So it's very simple. We're going to take a trip back to kindergarten where we learned our ABCs. So it's always be cleaning before disinfecting. And that is the most common thing that people miss, that they believe because they're using a cleaner disinfectant, which we've got a whole row of them here, products that do both, that they're going to do both at the same time. But if you don't leave a disinfectant long enough on that surface, it's not going to be able to kill the bacteria that's there. Cleaning it is going to remove 50% or more right off the bat, just using the agitation of a cloth or a wipe or anything like that. But you always need to clean first before disinfect, because you want to remove that soil, bacteria, anything that's there, and then let the disinfectant or the sanitizer do its job. So what is the difference between disinfecting and sanitizing? The easiest way to really break that down is if it's a food contact surface, then you want to sanitize versus disinfect. You want to be able to use something that is a rinse-free product. So if I think about a daycare area where there's potential risk of a child licking a toy, I don't want to disinfect that toy. I want to make sure there's no residue, that that child's going to be safe, and that they sanitize those toys, which is going to get them 99.99% of the way there versus a disinfectant that's going to kill to 100%.
Awesome. That's very helpful. Thank you. What do you think the potential impacts are of closing your washrooms to customers? So just taking the easy way out and saying, no, sorry, my washroom's closed. Paul, what do you think of the impacts of that?
I would think it would deter people from coming and visiting you, just as we found out with the trucking industry at the start of COVID, where they couldn't find washrooms to use. I think people would think about coming because, you know, it's a tough call, but I think that I know I would have to think twice about coming to visit a place if there was no facility to be used.
Yeah. Shannon?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think that, you know, when you go into a retail store, you don't expect, unless it's a big box store like a Winners or a department store or a grocery store where there's generally public washrooms. If it's a retail store, you don't expect that experience, but you do expect it in other facilities like an office building where on your common floors, you would have those restroom areas that are available to the public. So I think that there's a lot of hesitation for folks today to be walking into any building at this point until they know that they're safe and secure, but they do want to make sure that there's facilities there, because how can I wash my hands if there's no washroom available to me? So I think it goes along with feeling that safety and that there's less risk if those facilities are available to them. Now, the optics of those facilities can really change how someone feels about your business or about that area. If a washroom is dirty, well, that's going to impact their perception of your business as well. So there's a good balance there to make sure that you've got the right products and the right methodology behind how often you're cleaning those areas and that they look presentable at all times.
Yeah, awesome. That's great advice. Last question I have here, and then maybe we can open it up. And I know we started a bit late, so maybe if I ask my moderator, Rebecca, kindly, we can have a few minutes extra for questions. But my last question on my list for both of you is, how can cleaning supply companies like you help a tourism business? So how can you act as a resource for them? Because everybody has all these types of questions and there's not a lot of places to go to get the answers. Paul?
One place I'd like to say is start with is right on Shannon's website, www.dustbane.ca. It has been a huge help to our business. They seem to have up-to-date information on there. There's cleaning protocols. I have a booklet I printed off for our sales staff. One of the best ones I've seen is their enhanced cleaning supplies, enhanced cleaning practices. It has been a huge help to us. But I think about what our sales staff is doing and myself. We're going out and meeting with churches, buildings that are opening that have asked us, and we come in and talk about the cleaning of the products that we have, let them know that they're Health Canada registered. Just speaking with them because they're as confused as we are when we started this. So
awesome. Shannon?
Thanks for the plug, Paul. I love that you were going right to some of our literature. We've got some great tools available to help you, your team members, and some of these facilities. So something like our Dustbane Ways, we've got 87 room-by-room navigations and then cleaning guides that are based on various vertical markets that really help them walk through, what do I need to do in these spaces? What is the best practice? And taking a look at something like our Eco Logo program, so that they can drive cost out of their business, create those labor savings, but know that they're using a product that is not only safe for their workers, but safe for the environment as well, that's going to have enhanced cleaning performance to get the job done. So there's a lot of tools like that. Something that we've been doing with a lot of customers is just like yourselves. We're doing these Zoom calls where they can come into our training room virtually and walk through some of those pieces of equipment. Ask those questions that they might be a little nervous to ask in a different forum. So they can come in here and see what they need. We can walk them through, run some pieces of equipment or chemicals, show them how that all works, or do a virtual site survey so that we can go in and really address some of their needs and tailor it to their unique facilities. So there's lots of opportunities out there to learn. There's some great videos. There's lots of different ways that you can do that. But I think reaching back to those that do this for a living is a great place to start.
Yeah, awesome. Good advice. So let's open up the floor. I know you all have a lot of questions probably, so we can take some questions for Paul and Shannon here. Does anybody want to ask some questions? David, I know you must have a burning question. You guys are meticulous at what you do. You must have a question about deeper cleaning.
I did have a question, but it was more from a user. So as a consumer or a visitor going into a washroom where we don't know what the cleaning protocols have done, what can we do to kind of protect ourselves?
So I think one of the things that you can do is, as you nudge your way through the door, instead of touching the handle, if it doesn't look like it's something you should touch, is take a look and be very cognizant of the area that's around you. If you see a lot of debris and a lot of mess, then probably take a step back and go back out that door. I think if we take a look at the gas bars and C-stores, they've done traditionally a really effective job, as has a lot of the fast food restaurants, in being able to put a cleaning schedule that's there and visible for any of their customers to be able to see, so that you know that that area has been cleaned frequently, and that's going to give people a sense of calm and security to feel that that area is clean. But if you see that it's filthy, back away.
Awesome, thanks.
Chris, I just want to share, we were fortunate enough to go to a brewery and have an outside lunch in the patio. And you knew as soon as you arrived that everything was being handled really well. So that when you went into the washroom, you already knew as soon as you entered, and the way they had already wiped down the tables, you knew when you went into the washroom that it was comfortable, and the middle sink was crossed off. So you knew that they had taken care to encourage you not to go beside a small thing, but it adds up in terms of letting you know they know what they're doing. The other thing I want to pick up on is from a visitor perspective, it's very difficult to travel these days. And if we don't make it easy and tell people where washrooms are open as a community or a highway or a route, people aren't going to travel. So collectively, from a destination perspective, a DMO perspective, a community perspective, I know some of the things we've talked about in other Zooms is, information and communications. This is a critical piece.
Absolutely. I know in travel, there are some apps that, you can use but they're outdated. Nobody's keeping their stuff outdated. And what we've resorted to in going into communities is going straight to parks and using porta potties, because at least you know what you're getting into, so to speak, with those. Yeah.
One idea that I noticed some hotel chains have done is they've associated with the brand product. I've forgotten who they are, but I know the Hilton family of hotels and the Marriott family each have associated with a major medical provider like the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic, and they've also associated with Clorox or one of the other major cleaning companies. I wonder if there's another kind of a certification that could be developed that says we follow the protocols of XYZ, that would be open to attractions, to places that people would use the restrooms of. I'm sure, the major, I guess the service stations probably could, do one where they say that, SO standards or something like that, where they announce that when you get in, because I do think that's a concern, that when you go into a washroom, you're right, if it looks messy, you probably don't want to use it, and like you suggest, you want to back out. But what may be lurking on surfaces you can't necessarily see.
That's
so
right.
so that's sort of like a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
The other thing that's kind of interesting is that idea of allowing people to clean up after themselves, to take responsibility for it. I'm not sure if there's a way to have sort of like packets that people could, you know, take one of when they go in.
It's been interesting. We're a member of, both Paul and ourselves are members of ISSA, which is the International Sanitation Association. And they actually do certification for businesses on COVID cleaning. So it would cost a non-member, I think it's $300 US, somewhere around there, that you can get certification for your business to show that you've been through the cleaning protocols and you know what you're doing. Hilton and Marriott have both partnered with our partner Victory on the electrostatic sprayer. So these units here, and they do electrostatic disinfection. So a really nice option for people when they're looking for something that's quick and effective that they can use. So we've seen that with some of the hotel chains out of the US. They've also partnered with Ford and GM globally. But the other thing that we've started to see is back to almost like those void stickers that you used to have for your warranty, where people are putting that across their door now to say that that's been cleaned. So something else that you can do in your washroom areas, have a paper barrier that shows this area was just cleaned. A couple of little things that can be done, but there's certainly those certifications out there that can help with that.
I think there's a good marketing idea there for you too, Shannon, the dustbane certification program.
Absolutely. So we do that in our Dustbane 101s, and we do it with our partners, and it's something that we're looking at doing for our end user customers as well, so that they can say, yes, we've been trained on this product line and how to actually apply the products effectively and clean.
And just with respect to tourism specific protocols and seals, WTTC has released safe protocol and a safe travels global protocol and seal that you can apply for, and it covers off hospitality attractions, airports, rentals, tour operators, etc. As I stare at the website, I should know this because we're using it. We're also using electrostatic, which seems too good to be true. I'm a big fan of that. So I'd take a look at WTTC. They've produced a lot of information. It's just the reason I suggest it is because it's targeted specifically for us, for our industry.
Awesome.
Chris,
Okay.
did you see the chat window? Connor from the Kincardine Yacht Club says, we've been having problems with users neglecting the washrooms, purposefully clogging toilets, wasting paper towel and soap, just not respecting the property. Do you have any suggestions to try and prevent this?
So
You hear that all the time.
yeah. It's an unfortunate piece of what does often happen. What we found is a lot of folks have started to put up signage or something that's a little more personalized, that it's not like a please don't flush sign, but something that they've personalized to their facility and why that's important to their septic systems or to other reasons why you shouldn't be flushing paper towel. It seems crazy that in today's day and age, we have to consider that people are basically vandalizing washrooms by doing some of these things, but it is a common occurrence, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, it's the whole point of justifying, as Connor's saying, justifying keeping the washrooms open for people.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, disrespect your property, it's.
Yeah.
Another question here from Eileen. Should operators provide both soap for hand washing and hand sanitizer? It seems to me if you wash your hands, you don't need sanitizer. That's a great question.
Preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah.
So, but you'll hear from CDC and Health Canada, the best way to break down this virus, being an envelope virus when it comes to COVID, is it's actually the surfactant that breaks down that membrane. So yes, use soap and water. If you're using a hand sanitizer, that's a nice thing to do. It's also great if you have no access to soap and water, but go back to the basics. Soap and water is what works. So definitely I would say if you can provide soap, please do, because it's a much better option for customers than what you see with a lot of the hand sanitizers. And then what we're seeing most commonly with hand sanitizers is because there was such a worldwide shortage of it that all of these other types of businesses that started producing it are now starting to get a lot of recalls from Health Canada. And Health Canada yesterday shut down access to new suppliers for hand sanitizers that are not a GMP type of manufacturer, so that they don't have a lot of these wrong alcohols being used or products that are causing dermatitis and a lot of other things that come from them.
Awesome. Just maybe one last question here from Erin. She's just wondering what would be considered moderate and or high traffic. So what kind of definitions do you put on those?
So from our lens, moderate would be a convenience store that's got a lot of traffic that's going through that. If I think about the 401, you've got all the HMS host type of facilities, or on a lot of the highways where you've got visitor station, that would be moderate traffic. If you think of something that's more high traffic, well, that's when you're getting to your airports or something where you're not right now, but typically the airports would be higher traffic, or large grocery stores, that type of traffic.
Okay, that's helpful. Perfect. To respect our time allocations, we've gone over by 8 minutes, but that's okay. This shows that we could probably talk for a couple of hours on this session. So I'd really like to thank Paul and Shannon for participating, and encourage everybody, if you have questions, to reach out to your local sanitation supplier, because they, as we've heard, they have the knowledge and the intel to set you on the right path. So with that, thanks everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next session.
July
Thank you.
is the next one with Jill Vandal. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.